Hello, welcome to Azure Kubernetes deployment series, part 14. In this series, we are going to learn how to deploy microservice-based applications into a case cluster using Helm and customization. So we have already discussed there are two approaches to use Helm and customization together to deploy microservices into Kubernetes. The first approach is the template first approach, and the other one is overlay first approach. So the template first approach we have already discussed, and um, how we can deploy the microservices using template first approach that we have already done using manually as well as automated it using Azure pipeline. In your previous lab, we have already discussed the overlay first approach as well, and we have deployed it using the command line tools. If we go to our to the VS Code, we can see. So we have used these commands to deploy to generate the deploy YAML file for in the templates folder, and using these commands we how we can deploy it. We have already deployed it into the AKS cluster. The same thing we are going to do today, but we will use Azure pipeline to automate this. Okay, so in the previous lab we have taken the uh, image tag, that is uh, the image that we have pushed into the Azure Container Registry, and that is v1. We can see that I can show you here. So you can see this is the tag we are using for our Docker images. But today, since we are deploying, we are building the Docker and pushing the images through pipeline. So we will take the build ID as the tag of our images. So we can see if we go to our pipelines here, and upon this order pipeline, we can see this is our build stage, and in this we are using the build id. We can see the image tag as a build id to append in our uh, Docker images. So this should be dynamically added to the uh, images while deploying into the AKS cluster. So the so the pipelines is same as the previous one that we have done for the template first approach. Here the difference is while we are deploying the images into a case cluster. So one thing we have to remember here is we are using values.yaml, and this tag need to be replaced with the build ID of the pipeline. So in order to do that, in if we go to this deploy YAML here, we can see in this Azure CLI task, I'm updating that image tag, I mean the build ID, in this values.yaml file for the services, uh, services for order, product, and the storefront. And one more thing is that we need to generate this deploy.yaml under the template folder, and this is the command we use to generate this. We can see in our readme file, you can see this is the command that we are using to generate the deploy YAML, right? To generate the deploy.yaml file under the templates folder of the services. So that same thing I have done here under this deploy.yaml file. Here it is generating the, you can see under the template deploy YAML, it will generate the deploy.yaml file. Okay, and here there are two part actually. You can see if it is not config YAML, then this is the command, and if it is config, then this is the other command. This difference is because you can see here for config we are using this command, but for others it will be different. Okay, here we are using the template folder. Here we are using the base, and but here in other cases we are using the overlays and its corresponding environment. Okay, for config we are not using any overlay folder. Okay, so for that reason the command is a bit different for the config YAML file. Yeah, so this is the simple difference that I have done in this, added in this common Azure CLI task. And this is, I already discussed, like how we are changing this values.yaml file. So what usually it will happen, because if as you know, yesterday in our previous lab, that this deploy.yaml file we are generating. So this command, it will generate this, and using this, the values.yaml file, whatever values we'll get it here, using this, it will, using the helm install, we can deploy to the cluster. Okay, so before to that, this values.yaml file, that you need to update. Okay, and that we are doing here. You can see we are changing it with the image tag, the values.yaml file for the respective uh, services. Okay, and after that, in another Azure CLI task, here I'm just installing. You can use helm install here, but usually you can use upgrade and -i. -i is nothing. If it is not installed, it will install fast for the first time, then later time it will upgrade it. Okay, since you are going to run it multiple times, the pipeline, so if we'll use helm install, then it will give the error that the with that name, what is the name we are specifying here, so it is already taken, so the build will fail, the pipeline will fail. Okay, so for that reason, we'll use upgrade and we'll use -i flag, so that for the first time, if it is not installed, helm is not installed for that service, then it will install it, and next onwards it will upgrade it. Okay, so we'll not get any pipeline failure. Okay, so for this I have already created the resources. You can see here. um, okay, let me just explain from the, like previously we used to do this command to provision our resources. So that is, I have already run, and the resources are created, and in the repository of the ACR we can see these services are already created. Sorry, the images are already created with a different build id. Okay, now in order to access the cluster, also we have to log in with this, and we have to create multiple namespaces here, because we'll use one namespace for a specific environment. So once that is done, then I have run these pipelines. You can see I have run the config pipeline here. It is deployed into all the environment. The first stage is to publish this artifact. The artifact is nothing. It is take this store helm chart to the agent machine, and from there it will deploy into the AKS cluster. And these are the respective stages for the environment to deploy into the AKS cluster. You can see deploy using Kustomize here. So you can see this is the manifest file that for the configuration that is deployed. Okay, this is for dev environment, and for test also it will do something same thing. Okay, yeah, and for, if you go to the rabbit message queue, that is also deployed here. And for order, if you see here, it is, this is the final deploy.yaml. You can see here the replica is 1, and the Docker image is 586. Okay, this 586 is nothing, the build id, and it will, using this, it will fetch that image from here, this 586. Okay, since I have deployed multiple time, right, so it created multiple versions of the image. Okay, so coming to this again, so you can understand this, like it is taking this build id as image. Yeah, and similarly, if you go to the test here, you can see here the replica is 2, because this is our, it is passed by this corresponding uh, order overlay test environment. If you see test values, the replica is 2, so it overrides that one. And for prod it should be 3, as we have mentioned it here. Okay, so if we open this for prod, and we can see the replica is, it shows 3. Okay, and the image id, it will take the same image id here. Okay, yeah, 586. Okay, so that way we have I have just run for prod pipeline, and also for the storefront storefront pipelines, all are deployed. Now if we'll go to the command line here, and just to get the pod here, you can see, let's get it from the dev environment first. You can see one replica is running. Similarly, you can get it from the test namespace. Okay, so two replicas are there for each of the services, and for prod here three. Okay, so here we deploy the microservices into a case cluster using Helm chart as well as customization using the overlay first approach through Azure pipeline. Okay, and if you want to browse this, minus n dev, let's go to the dev namespace and got get the public IP of the front end application, and they will let just browse it using the port 80. Okay, you can see now we are able to browse the application for dev environment. Similarly, we can also browse for the other environment. Yeah, so that's all about how we can use Hemchat and customization together for deploying applications into cluster. It is not Azure Kubernetes. We can deploy it into any other cluster as well. Like for uh, AWS, we can use EKS. Okay, and for Google Cloud also we can GCP. We can also use. We can deploy there also. So yeah, so this is the end of this session where we have discussed the Helm chart and customization, and you can see this differences here as I mentioned at the top here. Okay, so these two things we have done already, both command line as also in through Azure pipeline, and this part also we have done, and this is the part pros and cons also we can just discuss it. Okay, so that's all about this today. If you have any comments, any suggestions, let me know, and also subscribe this channel to get the notification for the future videos. Till then, bye bye, and also just delete the resources. That's all. Thank you so much. Bye bye.